Okay, I think we might as well get started. I haven't heard any bing bongs for a while because you can hear them all coming in. So a very good morning to all of you and a warm welcome to our second update. This is our spring update. We held our very first update in the autumn. My name is Helen Elliott and I have the absolute privilege and pleasure of being the Chief Executive of Hearts Young Homeless. Just before we get going, what I'd like to do is to let you know that we are actually going to record this session. We can send out the presentation to you all afterwards and to anyone that can't make it today. So just wanted to let you know that. And we've got a really wide audience here today from some partner agencies and lots of different supporters in terms of business supporters. We've got some of our fantastic grant supporters as well and other fundraising partners. Some old, not literally old, but a few quite new to us as well. So what we'd like you to do is to put your name and organisation into the chat box at the bottom, and we can just sort of see and welcome one another as we do that. So a little bit of time to do that. Thank you very much. I can't see the chat box, so you could just be all ignoring me and I've got no idea, so it's fine. Oh, yes, I can. Hello, Julie. Hello, Jake. Hello, Hannah. Matthew, you're already here. You're presenting later. You better be here. Jake. Hello, Tim. Yes. Good morning, Sarah and Gilmar. I'll try and mention Patty. Oh, Michelle. And Crowdace, the lovely Crowdace as well. Not that you're not all lovely. Good morning, Peter. Peter's our chairman. Good morning, Peter. Pearl Drop, who did the film you're about to see for us, will help produce that for us. Good morning, Denise and Simon. Okay. Oh, and whoever iPad is. Oh, it's Karen. It's Karen. Hello, Karen from Cardiff Clinical as well. Right. The other thing I just wanted to say before we get going is that we are also planning to answer any questions you may have as you go through. So put them, we don't have a Q and answer box, I don't know where that went, but please feel free to put them into the chat box as well, or we're happy just to take them directly at the end. So moving on. Next slide. Chris Whitty. For today's session, we want to talk about where we are 1 year on post-COVID and give some practical examples as well. I will take you very briefly through the emerging trends for youth homelessness. It could be a very big subject matter all on its own, but I just want to give you some headlines. We are then going to premiere our new film on sofa surfing. I mentioned Pearl Drop Productions earlier, and also Burton's Biscuits, who helped support it. This is going to follow the theme of hidden homelessness that you'll see throughout our seminar today. And we're very proud to present that to you. And then you're going to learn some more about the frontline challenges that we face from our lovely outreach services manager, Becca Froggett. And we're going to show you a short film with an HYH service user who is talking with her floating support worker. I won't tell you the floating support worker's name because they mention it several times. So, and they talk about her journey, and it gives you a chance to see the difference that your support will help to make to us as we go through. And finally, our wonderful trustee, Mathew Baxter, known to many, will share a little of his journey of support for HYH, probably in his own inimitable style, known Matthew. We finished with a couple of our plans for 2021 and then any questions and answers. And our intention is to be finished around 45 minutes. So that will give you that chance to have that all important cup of tea or coffee before your next meeting. So first of all, as I said, I'd like to share some data with you about the impact of COVID-19 on youth homelessness. And for this information, I've drawn from a recent survey from DePaul UK. So what they found was, and it's unsurprising really, that young people are being disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. And of the numbers that we looked at, they said that 58% of people surveyed were suffering increased anxiety because of their financial situation during the pandemic. And also, and almost 3/4 have been isolated from family and friends. And that's a pattern that we've seen quite a lot of. Around about 60%, 6 out of 10 said their mental health had suffered because of COVID-19. And almost a third, and something that we've seen quite a lot over the year, A third had said that they'd faced difficulties in finding enough food during lockdown. And of those, more than, 80% said the pandemic had had an impact on their health, and nearly all of them were unemployed, 89% were unemployed, and therefore dependent on state benefits for their upkeep. So really, no surprisingly, the evidence generated from this research brings to light the challenges faced by young people, who all too often, we see this, and I'm sure you see this too, to struggle to get their voices heard. So what we do at HYH, we'll continue to use our own knowledge together, using the insights that we see both from our own work and also from the research around us, to continue to respond to the pandemic in a way that keeps young people safe from COVID-19, homelessness, and the harms that are associated with periods of housing instability. So we'll move on now to look at the changing profile of homelessness, and my thanks to Homeless Link, who are our national body, some of this data, and also the government. So at the moment, we have around 100,000 households in temporary accommodation, many of them falling through the cracks. But whilst that's an increase, it's actually a positive sign, because the government launched an initiative right at the beginning of COVID, around about June, of bringing everybody in. So the increase in this number of households is something to do with the fact as well that they've brought a lot of people in, and they are in temporary accommodation while they're moving on. Worryingly, we have 30,000 households at the threat of homelessness, and that's many due to private landlords who have actually ended tenancies despite the measures that have been put in place to protect the renters. And we're worrying about that because we're coming to quite a pivotal point in the next couple of months where we will see the restrictions on the bailiff enforced evictions will end on the 31st of May. And everyone in, which again was the initiative about bringing people off the streets, will end at the end of June. So we see that as a real threat moving forwards. And then linking back to our own theme again, BBC News reported in December 2020 that 3/4 of youth homelessness charities, and certainly it's very much our awareness of it as well, are expecting to see a surge in demand, and more worryingly, an increase in the numbers of young people sleeping rough in the coming months. That will be either due to losing their jobs, which we've talked about earlier, or the breakdown of family relationships. So just to give a little bit of context to that, in London alone, 368 young people aged 16 to 25 were found to be experiencing street homelessness between July and September last year. And that's a 47% increase compared to the same quarter of the year before. So this statistic really suggests that many young people who are already in precarious housing positions may well be being pushed into homelessness as a result of COVID-19. So slide number 5, I've put read heading here and I can't actually see the heading, so I'll let you read the heading. But it's a question about the fact that some of the measures that have been taken are already helping to lower the number. But one of the things I just wanted to draw out, we talked about trends, is domestic abuse. We often have people come presenting to us with domestic abuse and have to refer them on to refuges. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later. The economic impact, I was really interested to read about the fact that the economy shrunk by 1/5, and also to note that government debt is the highest level it is for 60 years, apparently. And I mean, that's just going to have an ongoing effect, not only for statutory funding, but also for everybody from a consumer perspective and moving forward. And then just one last area that I wanted to draw out was that more than a quarter of the youth homelessness population in the UK identify as LGBTQ+. That's a quarter of them. And according to an amazing charity called AKT, in their latest report into LGBTQ homelessness, they actually face rejection because they've come out to their families during this time of the pandemic. And they felt very frightened and they felt very threatened by their family members. So most of them are hidden homelessness. They perhaps experience homelessness in a more of a transient manner, often relying on sofa surfing to find somewhere to stay. And we'll come back to that as well, because sofa surfing is something we see very much It's kind of very hidden side. You see the rough sleeping, and then underneath is this really big hard block of hidden homelessness that's very difficult to treat. And like very many young people, the LGBTQ plus face specific barriers which can cultivate an environment where they're trapped in a cycle of deprivation, hidden homelessness, rough sleeping and poor mental health. And I draw that out, and we can send some links to the report from AKT as well, if anyone's interested. So looking to the future, we're going to join with our colleagues across the sector to ask that the government prioritises sustainable funding for services and leads with a focus on prevention. We're here at Hearts Young Homeless, we're very much about early intervention and prevention, the front end of the pathway. By focusing on prevention to address the systemic causes of homelessness, that will include the welfare system and lack of affordable funding. By putting resources and efforts, by focusing the root causes of youth homelessness, we believe that will really help protect the most vulnerable young people at a time of great need, but also it marks a renewed commitment to end youth homelessness for good. And that's, we're something as a charity, even though we would want that to be the case. In fact, we don't want to be here as a charity because we want there to be no youth homelessness. We want that to not be a reason. So we're looking to see that we want to push with our voices and those of our colleagues across the sector to ask that the government put together a strategy to make sure that happens. Okay, and now moving on to our premiere. Much of our work, as I've mentioned before, is with hidden homelessness, particularly with young people under the age of 18. So with the kind sponsorship of Burton's Biscuits, we've made a film to raise the awareness of the realities of social surfing. And what our aim is so just talk about the realities, but our aim also is to reach out to as many young people in Hertfordshire to let them know that we're here, help is here for them, and it can make a difference. So I'd like to play that film for you now, please.
It used to be great at home. I had an awesome time growing up, but then Mum got a new boyfriend, Neil, and I know it's weird, but I felt like I was the one who didn't belong there. I'd had enough of the fighting. Mum and Neil just didn't understand me. They never listened. It all got too much. Mum would try to stop me leaving if I told her I wanted to go, but it was easier just to leave quickly one night. I didn't even have time to think about where I'd be staying. I remember Ben had said I could stay with him for a bit if I ever needed to. Might even be a laugh. His family is great and there's always stuff happening at his. It was great at Ben's, so much better than being at home. No arguments. The sofa was pretty comfy really, but sleeping in the lounge was a bit weird. People were coming in and out all the time, and I could hear the floorboards creak every time someone walked about upstairs. I wasn't getting much sleep, and I did miss having my own room and a proper bed. It was hard having no privacy for getting changed. There was no space to put my stuff, and I never knew if it would get moved by somebody. It was kind of them to have me stay though, so I didn't want to make a fuss. I did want to go home though, but I couldn't just call Mum. I knew Ben needed his own space and that his dad was beginning to ask how long I'd be there for. And it was getting hard waiting for Ben to let me in at night as well. I walked down a lot of dark streets, just killing time before he came back with the key. I knew I couldn't stay there forever. It was starting to affect my college work. The college was miles away and getting there on time was really hard. Plus it was really difficult to study with the TV on in the background in Ben's living room. I think I started to smell too. I couldn't always get in the bathroom or use Ben's washing machine. I couldn't complain though. It wasn't my house and they weren't asking for rent. One day at college it just got too much. Mr. Edwards found me in the library in floods of tears. I told him everything, even my feelings, about how anxious and stressed I felt, that I was so ashamed, but that I couldn't go home. I thought he'd tell me to grow up and get back to lessons. But he didn't know. He listened to me and he told me about an organisation called Hearts Young Homeless. He even helped me give them a call. It was such a weight off my shoulders speaking to Joe on the advice line at the homeless hub. He just listened. He didn't judge me and he talked me through my options. He even offered to phone my mum for me. At least she'd know I was safe. HYH organised for a mediator to work with me, Mum and Neil over 6 weekly sessions so we could talk in a safe space. They even made sure there was a targeted outreach worker there to support Mum and Neil, which made them more comfortable. I didn't even know there was help available like this for young people like me. It made such a big difference to me and Mum. HYH also put me in touch with YC Hearts and some local youth projects. They even helped me to find a part-time job too, which has really let me build up my confidence to start thinking about my future. It wasn't easy going home, and we still have bad days, but we talk more and it doesn't always end in huge arguments. We're much happier staying together as a family. College is going well too, and I know I can always call HYH for more support and advice if I need to. It hasn't all been perfect, but you know what? I feel like I belong at home again.
Thanks to Burton, going around again. Our thanks to Burton Biscuits and to Pearl Drop Productions, but also to our own team who have been very heavily involved in putting that together. And say that's our first viewing, so you've had a treat there. So having talked a bit about the theory and then given you some of the practicalities around the sofa surfing, what I'd like to do now is introduce you to our incredible outreach services manager, Becca Froggett, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about the realities of the work that we do and the realities of hidden homelessness. So over to you, Becca.
Thanks, Helen. I've got over the first hurdle. I've managed to unmute myself, so I'm quite proud of myself for that. Lovely to see so many faces this morning. Thank you for taking your time out to listen to us and spend the morning with us. I wanted to talk to you a bit, as Helen said, about the hidden homelessness that we see in Hertfordshire. As Helen said previously, the rough sleeping side of homelessness is only a small part of what we do. We do have services in Hertfordshire that support rough sleepers, but actually the majority of people that come to see us are sofa surfing. And as you can see from the video you've just seen, it has such a huge impact on people's lives and their well-being. And Hertfordshire itself, I think a lot of people think, oh, Hertfordshire, it's a very affluent area. There can't be any housing issues here. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And because it's such an affluent area, that has created pockets of deprivation. And also the fact that in some areas we're so rural, which obviously can hide the homelessness issue even more. With regards to the young people that use our services, we are seeing an increase in need year on year. And because of that, we try and tailor our support services so that we look at them as individuals, we look at their needs, their backgrounds, and we try and put a package or a tailored support package in place to best meet that individual's needs. We also work really holistically with our service users. So we're really aware that actually when they come to us, housing is normally just one issue of many that they need support with. So we look at supporting them in all areas of their lives, not just the housing element, because we recognise you need to do that to fix the housing issue. And we either can do that internally through our services, or we work really closely with partners and other specialist agencies. So moving on to the next slide, please, Katie. I next wanted to talk to you about the impact of COVID-19. You've obviously seen Helen's already spoken about national statistics, and I wanted to just, say that actually we are seeing that on the ground. So we do have an increase in mental health. We do have an increase in domestic violence and social isolation. The other thing we're seeing is not being able to see our young people face to face has really affected us. I mean, we have always, throughout lockdown, seen people in emergencies with very strict rules. And I'm really pleased to say that as the lockdown is lifting, we're being able to get out and about more often. But not being able to speak to young people face to face does have an impact. It's really easy for our young people when we call them, when we say, are you okay? How are you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. But actually, if we were there face to face, we could see a completely different picture. So we're really working hard to get out there as quickly but as safely as possible, obviously. Another area we've struggled with is accessing other services. So that could be a physically an issue. We can't actually get there. How are we going to get these young people there? For instance, food. I know Helen touched on food, but it's all well and good having the food banks, but we've got to get that food to the young person. So the staff at one, they were doing a lot of deliveries, but again, it was essential. Another issue with services is an increased pressure and need. As the need has gone up, there's more call for support services now. Actually, that's put more pressure on those services who were already very stretched. So obviously that has an impact. And another area is the goodwill coming to an end. You saw in the sofa surfing video that, you know, they completely rely on the goodwill of other people, but that does come to a point where people have had enough, and obviously that causes more problems. There are some positives of COVID-19 that we've seen. Helen has spoke about the everyone in. So when we're in full lockdown, then nobody's to sleep rough, and they do put people in hotels and things like that, which is fantastic. We've seen an increase in some funding for some areas. So universal credit, there's been some increase, and also there's more funding for rough sleeping services as well, which is great. There's been an increase in public awareness. I think the epidemic has brought to the forefront of people's minds how the impact that it's having on the more vulnerable people in our society. And can't believe I'm saying this, but actually virtual meetings, we've seen a benefit. I'm sure all of you have a love-hate relationship like me, and I'm very pleased to say my children are at school, so there aren't any screaming children running about whilst I'm talking, which is a big bonus. But being able to contact other professionals virtually actually has improved and increased our communication levels, which obviously has a great impact on the ground and the services providing. COVID-19 has also, there's some misunderstandings, I think, that we've been having to work towards. So, for instance, a lot of people believed that evictions were stopped for everybody, but actually that was only for a very small group. It was for those in social housing. If you were in other types of accommodation, it was lawful to evict you as long as you met certain criteria. So even in the height of lockdown, people were getting evicted from accommodation. So moving on to my last slide, please, Katie. So what are we doing on the ground? I think because we've got the frontline knowledge, we respond to the needs that we're seeing. So whether that's adapting the services we've already got to meet a need, looking, can we increase services or fill a gap where there isn't already a service there? Helen said earlier, we prepare for the future. So as Helen said, we know we're going to have an influx of referrals for those that are being evicted from social accommodation soon. So we're looking at how we can prepare for that. Influencing policies. So as Helen said, we look at it nationally, but we also do it locally as well. So speaking to the powers in Hertfordshire County Council, what they can do to make services better on the front line. And also our team. Our team are our biggest asset. Our staff's knowledge and commitment to their service users and services is just amazing, and we're so proud of every single one of them. But in order for them to provide that service as an organisation, it's really important that we provide them with the training and the skills that they need to be able to provide a really high quality service. The other thing is this is a really emotional job, so we need to support them emotionally as well. And by doing all of that, we're trying to ensure that we're providing the best service possible. You're going to see a video in a minute of Charlotte interviewing Jamaise. Charlotte's one of our floating support workers, and I think it's just a fantastic video because it really does show the work that Charlotte's done. And lastly, but definitely not least, I just want to say thank you to you all on behalf of all the staff and service users at Herts Young Homeless. Without your support that you give us over the year, the services just wouldn't be able to function as they do, and we wouldn't be able to make such a difference in so many young people's lives. So thank you so much. And I'm going to leave you with Charlotte and Jamaise now, but thank you and enjoy the rest of your morning.
So, Jamaise, can you tell us your circumstances when you first came to HYH?
Okay, so when I got in contact with HYH, I was actually in a domestic abuse relationship, and I just needed to leave the flat basically because it got to a point where I didn't feel safe.
And how did that make you feel?
What, getting in contact with HYH or
just your situation?
It was awful. It was hard. I also felt like getting in contact with HYH, it was like my last resort, and I didn't know if they were really going to be able to help me at all. I was nervous. I was really scared.
And how have HYH helped you?
I don't even know how to begin. Just with everything, even down to housing. They put me in to a domestic abuse refuge. Also have support from you, Charlotte. Can I say, am I allowed to say your name? Charlotte. Literally my fairy godmother, who's just completely opened up my eyes to just how to pay my bills and things that I didn't even know I had to take into consideration, and having to focus on these certain things was like, I didn't have that mindset of thinking about the partner that I was with. So I was having to focus on getting myself better and knowing about housing and things like that, and you would check on me once a week, sometimes more than that, if certain housing things needed to be done. Just felt really supported by you all, by you, really, which I really needed, because, I felt alone. I did feel alone. I thought I wasn't going to, I felt like I was just going to be put in a place and be left, but you really just, don't cry. You really just, you really helped me out, Charlotte, big time.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Good.
Oh.
Yeah.
And with the pandemic, what impact has that had on you? Has that had a massive impact on your life, do you think?
It has. There's times where I've sat and just thought about what the hell am I doing and stuff. But I guess when you've got support around you, like I've got my mum, I've got you, I don't know, just daily reminders of, okay, Maze, remember you've got to sort out your gas and electric, or remember this and that. It's just those things have kind of distracted me, and obviously my music and stuff, doing my music, and just having your support, Charlotte. Like, I don't think you actually realise like how like significant you have been in my life, like just down to me calling you up and just saying, I'm not really having a good day today, or just things like that. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't have to get me food packages, or you didn't have to, I don't know, just I've dealt with people in the past that have just done their job basically and just seen it as a job, and you have just gone past that. You've just gone beyond, and I'm just really grateful for that, to be honest. Really am.
That's lovely. Thank you. And you're a clever girl, and you've got so much going for you. So please tell me what your hopes and dreams are now. You've got your flat, which is beautiful. Yeah. You're in a great place. What do you want for your future?
Well, I would love to become maybe a musical journalist. Wow. I've done like a trauma class with my mum and this doctor on Zoom, and he just basically opened up my mind to how the brain works and how our bodies are built on vibrations.
Oh, wow.
And music is vibration. Do you know what I mean? And we connect through music, and I would love to just explore that mental health wise in some way.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's my plan, really. Music. That's
amazing. That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah, very moving film indeed. And I'm going to echo what Becca said before, that you know, a lot of the work that we do could not happen without the support that you all give us. So for that, we're really grateful, really grateful. And then moving on now to another way of supporting us, to tell you the reasons why, the joy, the pain, oh, and the pleasure, Mathew, in your own way. I'd like to introduce our trustee, one of our trustees and managing director, sorry, Mathew, of Echelon, Mathew Baxter.
Thanks. I'll just get my breath back after that. So thank you, Helen, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to take a minute. I don't really need to do my 3 slides. I think I'll just watch that video again, and that will tell you everything you need to know of why getting involved with such a great charity is so important. But I'll try and compose myself and take you through sort of my journey with Hearts Young Homeless. So I guess most people ask me kind of why did you get involved with HYH? You're a busy guy, you've got a busy life, you run a company. Why and how did you get involved? So I'll kind of talk you through the journey and some of the things that we're doing now as well. So I've got a very close affinity with Hertfordshire, and particularly Hatfield, where HYH are based. I grew up in Hatfield. I moved away in my early teens. But obviously Hatfield, as most of you know who are local, has been through a big transition. It had the sort of heart torn out of it when British Aerospace closed in the mid-80s. So it's been sort of a town that you go back to, and you can see how the impact that's had socially and economically as well. Moved back to Hertfordshire in 2005, and through lots of circumstance and by no great plan, ended up starting my own business back in 2005. We were originally based in Welwyn Garden City. We moved to St Albans about 10 years ago. And I guess part of that is I'm somebody that kind of looks in the mirror every morning and just looks back at myself and says, you're lucky. I've had a lot of luck along the way. I've had a lot of people that have helped me. Some of them are on this call this morning. We've had some great clients that helped us when we started. So I kind of never take anything for granted. And I've always had a roof over my head. I've always had a support network around me, and lots of people haven't got that. So just to be able to do something very, very small, our contribution is by no means huge, but we do what we can. It just to try and give something back, I think is really, really powerful as well. So as the company grew, we kind of started doing an annual conference. We work in the social housing sector, and we've got quite a big footprint with contractors and housing associations and local authorities all around the UK, including locally. And we decided a few years ago to try and do a kind of one-day event where we could bring the sector together as a whole, discuss issues of the day around housing and construction and maintenance, etc. And off the back of that, it was quite successful the first 2 years. We decided to expand that event into having a dinner. And as such, we decided it would be really good to try and do something with a local charity. My son, who some of you on the call know, was doing some work experience for us at the time, and I was talking to him about looking at some charities, and he said, well, that's easy, Dad. So I don't even need to look. At school, we've done some work with this great charity called Hearts Young Homeless, blew us all away. He's lucky, he knows he's had quite a privileged childhood, and I think like all his friends that had probably a similar presentation to the one we've had this morning, it kind of made them all humble, which it bloody well should, because they're very lucky to have the lives they have. And it was basically him that introduced me to Hearts Young Homeless. So we spoke to the then head of fundraising and talked about what we wanted to do. And off the back of that, sort of a year or so later, I was asked to become a trustee as well. And I've had a background as well as running my own company. I have been a kind of independent board member of housing associations over the years as well. So I had a bit of experience of governance, not in the charity sector, but certainly governance within the public sector. So it was really that kind of chain of circumstances of kind of the conference growing and looking for a sort of a charity that we kind of met and fell head over heels in love with Hearts Young Homeless. So can I have a next slide, please, Katie? So the kind of things that we do to support Hearts Young Homeless, I think obviously one is the network. We've got a fairly broad network as a business across the sector, locally and nationally. We've been fantastically well supported by clients and contractors that we work with. Every year when we do our auction, we're blown away at the donations we get and the support that we get as well. So it's very much about kind of using our position to introduce HYH to a broader network of people as well. We've always had a focus, because probably like everybody else on the call, I wasn't really that aware of hidden homelessness and sofa surfing as I am now, and what a big issue it was as well. So we've always tried to use our platform as an opportunity to raise awareness as well. And Helen has very kindly spoken several times at events that we've chaired to kind of talk to our networks around what some of the issues are as well. So hopefully we've helped to raise some awareness across the sector as well. We give direct support to the fundraising team, so Caroline and Katie, who are just fantastic, as well as everybody else that we've spoken about this morning, out there sort of banging the HYH drum and drumming up support. So I've been very fortunate to work with Katie on doing some joint pitches, which I've really enjoyed. I just basically sit there and nod. Katie's fantastic and does all the hard work as well, but we've had some big successes there recently as well. We also do some direct sponsoring. So last year we sponsored the Big Give, which is a kind of match funding charity initiative. We've committed to do that again this year, but we're looking for somebody to match funders on that to get that going. So I'll be pestering people on that one over the coming weeks and months as well. We're doing our annual gala dinner again, and hot off the press is we've gone for it. We've decided to do a face-to-face conference this year, October the 21st at Stamford Bridge. I'm not a Chelsea supporter by any stretch of the imagination. But if they win the Champions League, and I think there's every chance they might, we'll try and see if we can get the Champions League trophy on one of the tables for the evening as well. But we're going to go for it again this year to try and raise some more funds, and also to raise awareness. We have had service users actually speaking at that conference, and that is a room of 200 fairly drunk housing and construction professionals, and you could have heard a pin drop when we've had speakers at those events before, when we're talking about some of the issues that the youngsters that HYH helps support as well. We set ourselves a target internally every year of the amount of money we want to raise as well. So it's great to have a kind of something other than being echelon, another sort of a reason for being as well. And we're also very keen and are getting more involved in the accommodation project as well. So HYH are now moving into a position where they are taking their first property on board, which I won't talk about, I'm sure we'll touch on it at other events, but we're certainly giving some direct support, because that is our field of expertise around procurement and asset management as well, and hopefully bringing some broader housing knowledge to the trustee role as well. So my final slide, please, Katie, is just benefits. So this is where I'm going to have to take a deep breath. So I think it is about giving something back. You know, we've been lucky. Everybody that works for Echelon is in a fairly good position, and it is nice to be able to do, although it is small, to be able to give something back to the local area. I think it's helped us build local networks as well. Although we're a fairly big business across our sector, we're not really that well known outside of it. So it's certainly introduced me to other people that I wouldn't have met had I not been a trustee, and that's been very useful personally and professionally. We do use fundraising as team building events. We've done the sleep out a couple of times. It's a fantastic and very humbling event to do as well. We are in our sector fairly well renowned for helping our clients deliver social value for their contracts. We do a lot of work with a charity called HAT, which is the Housing Association Charitable Trust, which is one of the kind of bastions for how housing associations can drive social value through their procurement. So again, it's very useful to align the knowledge that we've learned through HYH and vice versa as well. As I've already said, gives us a focus other than work. We're busy with business, but it's great actually to take time off our treadmill and actually spend some time working with HYH and hopefully giving them support as well. If you'd said to me 10 years ago that I'd be standing up in front of 200 people running an auction and not completely Horlicks in it, that's another skill that I probably wouldn't have if I'd not got involved with HYH. And I had a call with my board yesterday morning, and I said to them, same question I was asked, you know, what do you think the benefits are? And all of our boards have young children, apart from me. Mine's a bit older now, he's at uni, but the other 3 board members have all got fairly young children. And it's that relevance that we're all parents, you know, we all don't take for granted the positions we're in, you know, and lots of children and youngsters out there need help. So that's something that I think my team take really to heart, that we can do that. And Probably the final two, very personal ones. I think every minute I spend with the HYH team, which isn't enough, I wish I had more time to spend with them. It just makes me walk away and just think, wow, you know, you just need to watch that video and talk to the staff, and you just realise what a huge difference they're making to people's lives. That probably if HYH weren't there wouldn't be anybody else to pick them up and help them. And that hopefully we will see some more money coming from central government, but we know there's a squeeze. That isn't going to happen without the help and support of all of you on this call today. So we really do need to, as a nation, I think, help charities over the next couple of years, because it's going to be bloody tough over the next year or two, and it is going to be the most vulnerable in society that are going to need the most help as well. And I think, without doubt, it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Personally, I love spending time with the team at HYH, and professionally, I think it's made me better as well. So that's a little potted history of my journey with HYH. I've been a trustee for 3 years. I've just been asked to be a trustee for another 3 years. It wasn't a difficult question to answer. It was a straight yes. So I'm really looking forward to the next 3 years with HYH as well. So thank you for listening to me, and sorry if my voice was a bit wavery there. I did have some tissues ready, so I didn't need them. Thanks.
I'd like to just pass over now to Caroline Neil, who's our fundraising communications manager, just to see us through. It seems to be bang on track. So over to you now, Caroline. Thank you, Matthew, for that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Helen. It's so lovely to see so many of you on the call today. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And hopefully you feel really inspired by everything that you've seen and heard this morning. Just amazing to see the hard work of our frontline services and the impact that they're having with young people. And also to hear Matthew's story. And I know that so many of you on the call today have supported us already and will continue to support us in so many different ways. So I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes touching on a few things that are coming up, which you might like to hear about and get involved in. And as always, we'd love to have your support with these. So we're really excited that we've got our first ever fire walk coming up on Thursday, the 1st of July. As you all know, it's been very difficult planning events. So we're absolutely thrilled to be having a real life event that isn't just a virtual one. It's taking place on Thursday, the 1st of July at Stevenage Football Club. And it's going to be literally walking across hot coals in aid of Hearts Young Homeless. So there's a small sign-up registration fee for that. And then hopefully your friends and colleagues will want to sponsor you to do the fire walk. So there's more details of that going to be coming out soon. We'll be in touch with you about that. As Matthew touched on, we're incredibly excited at HYH that we are going to be moving into the area of accommodation ourselves. It's always something that we felt was slightly missing from our offering. Although we work very closely with accommodation providers, it's absolutely great that we're going to have our own accommodation. So this is a house for 18 to 24-year-old young people. It will be for 5 of them, and there will also be a support worker living in that house. It's a house in Welwyn Garden City that Welwyn Hatfield Borough Council have bought, and Hearts Young Homeless will be running the service there. So these young people are people that we'll be identifying as people who have great potential if given the right support to develop their skills, to move on in education or employment. So we're really, really excited about this project, and we see it as one which, if successful, which we sincerely hope it will be, we'll be able to repeat and run across the county. Excuse me, just have a drink. So finally, on the slide here, you'll see our iconic sleep out event. This takes place every year in St Albans, and it's going to be on the 19th of November at Oaklands College. This is a really, really exciting event. It's a great opportunity for corporate teams to come together for team building, or families also join us, and couples. It's a really, really fun event where we all come together to raise awareness and to raise funds for homeless young people. So we work in conjunction with a few other local homeless charities. So we're all working together towards the same aim. It really, really is a fun experience. So I'd encourage everyone to get involved. And this year, we're also going to be running a sleep out at home event on the same night. So that's for anyone perhaps with young families who'd rather camp out in their living room or in their garden, all coming together to raise funds and awareness. Go to the next slide. So we just wanted to quickly put into context for you the financial situation really around our funding. So 5 years ago, 3/4 of Hearts Young Homeless work was funded by statutory funds. But due to the austerity measures and various things which have happened in the last 5 years, that funding has now been cut to just under half, as you can see there. There is a big onus on the fundraising team within Hearts Young Homeless to raise a lot of money each year. And as you can see, we've got to raise £388,000 in order to provide the funding that will underpin the vital services that we run across Hertfordshire. So partnering with local businesses and working together with you all really will enable us to continue helping even more young people in our community. So we thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for joining us today. And now we're going to throw it open in case anyone has some questions for us.
I've been sent one directly. So someone said, if I were to organise a fundraising event for you with my company, what kind of support can Hearts Young Homeless offer?
Great. Well, we do have a corporate fundraiser within our team. That's Katie at the moment. Unfortunately, Katie is just about to go on maternity leave. Great news for her.
Or fortunately.
But fortunately for her.
For her.
Yeah. But we will be replacing Katie with a cover person. So we're always very, very keen to work in partnership with different companies. And it is a partnership. We really do see it that way. We look very carefully at, the fit between us and what the needs are. From your side, if you're looking for CSR objectives, then we really focus on those for you. Excuse me. What we would do with you is that we would brainstorm ideas together, and we'd look to meet your needs. We would work out with you whether you wanted to take part in one of our events, or whether there was a new and distinctive event that we could develop together, particularly for your team. We're always available to come and give talks to staff members. And we, welcome opportunities to speak to different customer groups. We can help with practical things like setting up a fundraising page. We'd work very closely on things like social media with you, so we could develop assets for your social media. We would share your involvement across our own social platforms. We do things like produce a video that would show the impact of your donation. So we really, really would try to do everything needed to work very closely with you. We'd be in regular touch every few weeks to discuss how things were going. And we also understand that you are very busy people yourselves, so we try to give as much help as we possibly could And of course, we've got lots of different materials like banners and posters and leaflets that we can share as well. So hopefully we would provide a really good package of support for your fundraising.
Thank you, Caroline. Are there any more questions?
We've got another
Katie.
question. How long will the young people live in the new home for the accommodation project?
That can be a Becca question. Over to you, Becca.
Thank you. Unmute myself. I think we'll be looking at between 12 to 18 months. The whole point of the accommodation is that we're going to give them the skills they need. So all the independent living skills they need to move out in a planned way. And we are going to be working really closely with our friends of HYH Group, who are going to be supporting us to enable for them to move out. We'll probably be looking at moving on into some private rented accommodation that they're going to be able to maintain and keep, so that we don't set them up to fail. The idea is they move out and then they can just flourish in the community. So we're really excited about it.
Becca, any more, Katie?
There's just
been a quick. Go on.
I was just going to say there's one from Marco asking about getting a copy of today's presentation, which we will be sending out after today to everyone that's attended, so everyone will get a copy of the recording.
Thank you. Yes, and I can see that we will send out any details of the firework. Please, anybody, I've seen Patty and some of the others are interested, please do it. I've been the first person to sign up and I'm quite frankly terrified. So I'd like to appreciate any support. Look at Caroline laughing and Katie. It's not funny. So yeah, any support. So just wanted to say as a close up really, do you provide boots? Thanks, Peter. Yes, you can. Yes, sorry, I'm looking at the questions now. Yes, you can share the figures. Please reference the DePaul at the bottom as well, but we can send the links out with it to the actual report. So be absolutely fine for that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for listening to our data. Thank you for the reactions that you've also had to the story with Charlotte. We really appreciate that you've given us your time and your support, and it makes a big difference to everyone that we look after and take care of. So thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you at some point in the future soon, maybe on some hot polls. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.
Bye.